Kyle, we good?
Yeah. I'm gonna let everybody in.
Kyle, are you waiting on me?
Okay, we're good to go if you want to start it, Mayor.
Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our regularly scheduled Marque City Council workshop and meeting, January 11th, 2021, at 6:01 p.m. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order and establish our roll call. So, Robin, would you call the roll for us, please?
Certainly. Councilmember District B.
Present.
Councilmember District C.
Present.
Councilmember District D.
Present.
And Mayor.
Present. Thank you, Robin. We're on item 3, which is our citizen participation. This participation is limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments from the public. At this time, any person with city-related business who has signed up may speak to the council on a specific agenda item, limited to 3 minutes. In compliance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, the city may not deliberate on comments. Personal attacks will not be allowed, and personnel matters should be addressed to the city manager during normal business hours. Robin, do we have any person wishing to speak at this time?
Yes.
We do. We have several that are in the meeting. The first one that popped up was Don Johnson.
Okay.
Did you want to speak, Mr. Johnson?
I just wanted to say congratulations to the mayor. I'm looking forward to working with Marque in the future. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just simply saying thank you, Mr. Johnson. Go ahead, Robin.
There's also a Sandy, and it could be Mr. Compound Sister.
Yeah, I think that is her. Yes.
Would she want to speak?
No, I don't think she wants to speak. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
She's rather shy.
Okay. We also have a just a Zoom, and then we have several numbers and Geraldine Sam. So are all of them unmuted, Kyle?
They have the ability to unmute themselves. What we'll do is we'll ask for there's a phone number 409 and it ends with a 492. If you're wishing to speak during this time, you'll have 3 minutes. If you want to speak, go ahead.
Okay. My name is Clarence Caldwell. I live on the 3600 block of Prairie Street. And I've been complaining about this noise issue and the horn issue ever since December of 2019. And nobody seems to want to do anything. I called the police department out. They don't do anything. I've had meetings right there with everybody. Nobody seems to wants to do anything. They have video evidence, audio and video evidence of stuff that's going on. The person right there went to court on the 2nd. This happened right here on December the 5th. The person right here started this mess again. This is what I got to go through every day. That's one incident right there. Okay. I mean, and it goes on and on and on. And this stuff right here is starting to get old. And nobody wants to do anything. This right here, date, sorry, I'm not that tricky. But I mean, this is December the 26th. They come in with all the noise, the horn honking. I mean, everything. And I talked to an officer. He said he gonna give them a warning. A warning. They've been warned. I mean, when is somebody going to do anything? I mean, this right here is really. I get cussed out by this individual. I got the event numbers and everything. The officer came out to my house. He knows the individual, so he said he wasn't going to write him tickets for all incidents. I don't know what else to do. I mean, I can't even invite nobody over to my house because of this mess. Can't even go out to grab my garbage can, and I get cussed out by this individual. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Here it is right here. I'm getting cussed out right here.
Oh, well, why don't you get your ass out that rain, man?
You see? That kind of stuff right there. So what am I supposed to do? I'm going out there, and it's nighttime, raining, just to avoid him, to go get my garbage can from the side of the street. And I get cussed out from an individual. The prosecutor or the DA stepped in and said, go file another report because this is a different incident. I went and done that. December the 2nd. I haven't heard from that officer. Today is the 11th of January, 2021. I haven't heard nothing from the officer. Nothing. That was Officer Gomez. Guzman, shall I say. So, I mean, what am I a person is supposed to do? And I was in one of your meetings. I was on one of your Zoom meetings. Y'all said that Chris Lane was supposed to have put an ordinance in to stop all this mess with all the loud noise with the vehicle. There's no ordinance on it. Nothing is being done. Nothing. This is sad. Well, I'm asking y'all for help. I'm begging. I am disabled. And I am begging y'all for help.
Mr. Caldwell,
I'm listening.
let me say this. Certainly, I hear the frustration in your voice. And I understand that you have worked and attempted to work with us for quite some time. Obviously, we can't respond as a council to this, but perhaps our city manager or our city attorney might be able to respond with factual information to help you understand where we are with it. So, Mr. Jackson, do you have any knowledge as it relates to this ordinance and our passing of it that might help Mr. Caldwell, because he's extremely frustrated tonight?
Jared, go ahead.
So I would say, Mayor, with all due respect, the only thing that we can say is that the ordinance has been passed, and that the criminal justice system does take some time. But I would suggest that you direct the city manager or myself to get in touch with him outside of the council meeting so we could discuss it.
Absolutely. Mr.
Thank
Caldwell, Mr. Caldwell, the ordinance has been passed. And so from this point, I'm not allowed to say anything else other than I'm going to ask Mr. Jackson to phone you on tomorrow so that you can work with the city administration to have this issue resolved. And again, sir, I am so sorry. I know that you're frustrated, but we're going to get it right for you.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your continued working with our city. We appreciate it. We appreciate your patience.
No problem.
Yes, sir. Robin, are there any other?
Okay. When we missed and the horn honking and all this kind of stuff. In fact, his wife right there, she rolls down the window to make sure that she's looking directly at my security camera and starts honking the horn.
Mr. Caldwell, if you don't mind, the 3 minutes are up, I believe. Mayor, is that correct?
Yeah, okay. No problem. No problem. I understand. Okay. Mr. Jackson, when is Mr. Jackson going to come? Because I tried contacting him
Mr.
and I
Caldwell,
haven't heard nothing.
Tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, Mr. Caldwell, tomorrow. Trust me, it'll happen tomorrow. I promise you that.
thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
Okay. Y'all have a blessed day.
You too, sir.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Moving on, I think Mr. Bill Starnes, I think he's here with TCAP, somebody said earlier, I believe.
Yeah.
So the next person would be Christopher Lane. I don't know if he would like, Christopher Lane, if you'd like to speak on anything, now would be the time to unmute yourself and your 3 minutes will start.
I think he's here, Kyle, to receive his recognition for time served on council.
Okay. What about Mr. Don Johnson?
He already spoke. Huh?
All right, Miss Geraldine Sam, if you'd like to speak for your 3 minutes, now would be the time to unmute yourself. Give her a few minutes in case. All right, moving on. There's a Margaret.
Okay, good evening. How are you all doing?
Hello, Mayor. How are you?
Doing great. I just want to know, do you know about when we'll be able to start meeting again at regular City Hall? Are we still under COVID and won't be able to meet? That's my question.
Mayor Sam, there is an item on our agenda tonight where we will approve criteria recommended by the city manager as to how and when we open our city for business again. So stay tuned to that item.
And one other thing, what kind of buildings are they building off of Bayou that's on the agenda for tonight?
That's not buildings. That's a zoning change. And as we move into that area, we'll be able to get some help from Dara and Mr. Jackson on a description of what's going to take place on that property.
Okay, so it won't just be anything built there, right? Because we don't need just junk being built in this part of town.
Yes, ma'am, I understand that. We're going to have a healthy discussion about that, and certainly we'll make sure that all of our citizens' wishes are respected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, there's a Margaret on here. I don't know if she'd like to speak. If she would, now would be the time to unmute your mic. We'll give you a few seconds.
Just with the TCAPs.
Okay. And then Michael Carlson. If you'd like to speak, now is the time.
Mayor, council, city manager, thank you for affording me my 3 minutes. I want to speak about opposition to the second assistant city manager. Reason why I don't see a need for it, I see that money could be used better spent, i.e. I don't know, youth program, or use it towards the taking care of all the shootings that are going on. I don't see why we need to seek additional funding if we have that much money. It could be better spent. I mean, to me, it's a common sense rule. We don't need a second city manager or assistant city manager. The span of control is not that great. So the city manager and the one assistant should be able to cover it. And we're talking, what, probably $150,000. I mean, that's great for a youth program, which the city doesn't have. So if you want a deterrent for kids getting into these gangs, that's a great program. That's a great put down money for that. So I want to voice my opposition to that. I mean, like I said, it doesn't pass common sense, and I don't know why we're doing it. I mean, I'm sure people on council would want to use common sense. So thank you, Mayor, and congratulations, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson, and thank you for your contribution tonight. Certainly, that'll be a topic of discussion on our agenda.
Okay, the other person that's on a phone, it starts with a 713 and ends with a 001. If they're here to speak for citizen participation, now is the time to unmute yourself. You're able to unmute yourself on the phone by pressing *6. Okay. And then the other thing would be, Mr. Cardwell, are you still on? Can you please, we need your phone number so that the city manager will be able to contact you tomorrow. Oh, no?
Okay,
Got it? Okay.
you ready?
Never mind. It's not needed. We have it.
Yep.
Mayor Bell, now's the time. That's everybody.
Say again, Kyle, I couldn't hear you. You were breaking up.
You can move on.
Okay.
That was everybody.
Okay. Well, we'd like to thank our citizens for their comments and their questions, and certainly we are taking those things seriously, and we will respond in a timely fashion. Moving on to item 4, old business, item 4A, discussion relating to adopting resolution number R-2020-0023, TCAP's professional service agreement and JEXA Energy's commercial electric service agreement for power to be provided on and after January 1st, 2023. This item was tabled at the December 14th meeting. Mr. Jackson.
Mayor, Council, good evening. Yeah, this is an item that was previously tabled. The council had asked for some additional information, and I know Susie's on, and Margaret and Bill, I believe, are here to talk to you and provide that additional information. So I will let Susie take over, and if she doesn't have anything, then Margaret can start. So Susie, anything?
Yes. Yes, this was something that council chose to table last time. I believe council wanted to know more if there was any savings to this approach, and that's why this time we invited a professional in this area to better explain to council regarding the concern. So I'll let Margaret and Bill take on the floor.
Susie, thank you for letting us come back and talk. At our last meeting, you all had you had the PowerPoint presentation in your agenda packet. In that PowerPoint presentation, it did talk about savings if we had been doing this looking back. And then I think that some of the council had some issues, wanted some questions about this program going forward. Bill Starnes is our energy consultant. He is the one that put this program together. He is the one that is going to be going out into the market and getting these contracts. So he is on the line to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, council, do we have any questions at this time?
Mr. Mayor, it's Joe Compion.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Joe.
As the newer member here, I apologize if I'm going to ask questions that might cover old ground. I'm trying to understand this contract. And Susie, maybe you can help me out. How are we purchasing power now?
We go through TCAP through a negotiated rate, and then we have a contract with TCAP, which is like a pool. Under that rate, that was, they go through negotiations with a good rate, then we apply that rate for the last, I believe, Bill was, and Margaret, correct me if I'm wrong, it has been like almost 5 years, correct? Currently, we pardon?
Yes, it's a 5-year contract right now
Yeah.
through 2022.
So,
Right.
so, so,
So
so,
that rate was locked in for 5 years.
so we're already a member of TCAP then.
TCAP,
Is that
yes.
accurate? We
We
are already
already
a
are a
member.
member.
And how much did we pay in membership
Mhm.
fees over the past year? Each year? What's our membership fees?
There is no membership fee per se.
Yeah,
How
not-
we are funded is through an aggregation fee. So this year the aggregation fee is 1.2 mils per kilowatt.
So it's included, but so no member has ever reached that 14,000 that's indicated, I think, in the contract. I read someplace.
Bill, I'm not sure what he's talking about.
No,
I would
I'm
have to
reading
have
here.
a reference where the 14,000 is. We certainly have members that pay more than that because we have some very large members. But it's all done on a per kWh adder to a contract, to the contract price. It's a very small amount. And if you give me just a minute, I can probably work yours up fairly quickly and tell you what you're paying generally. Just give me a second.
Okay.
And I will work that up for you.
And while you're working that up, Margaret, maybe you're the expert here on this. We have, as I understand TCAP, there's a small business a small city section, small city membership. Is that accurate?
So just to give you a real brief background on TCAP, we're a nonprofit organization that we aggregate our members together. Right now we have 166 members. And the board of directors is elected from the members, and the board, we make sure that we have board members that represent small consumption cities, medium consumption cities, and high consumption cities, as well as some at-large places. We also make sure that all 4 ERCOT zones are represented on the board. Right now, the Houston zone is represented by Rob Hawk, the city manager of Tomball, and Chris Stubing, the assistant city manager of Sugarland. And so our membership, we have cities, we have counties, we have MUDs, we have special utility districts, we have emergency service districts, housing authorities, any political subdivision that is in the unregulated ERCOT area can be a member of TCAP.
And I calculated your annual expenses to fund TCAP at about $5,700 a year.
$5,700 a year. That's what we've paid over the average over the past 5 years.
That's what you're paying now, right? It has been lower at times, yes. This is probably about the highest it's been.
And is there a cap on that ever?
We have not had a cap, but the rate is determined by the board of directors, and so they will look at the budget and adjust the budget to fit a cap. So we don't really necessarily have one, but we do have the amount being approved by the board of directors. It's not just willy-nilly; they have to approve it, and that's a very active process, a very well-vetted process, I would say.
So Miss, let's see, Miss
Sorry.
She's left? Oh, there you are. I have to find you on the right. I feel like I'm playing that game show. What is it? The Squares? There's, in your structure, there's a free associate membership. Does that still exist?
It does exist. The associate member, we started that to help members who were not, or to help particularly cities who were not members of TCAP learn more about TCAP while they decided if they were going to start purchasing power through us.
Okay. But they couldn't avail themselves of the of the group purchase?
They could as soon as they passed a resolution that joined TCAP.
Okay.
But once they do, they have to start funding it too. So they can't do it for free, correct?
Correct.
So in summary, Susie or Mr. City Manager, we've been participating with TCAP for 5 years.
Correct.
And now you're seeking to extend this relationship for another, what's the term, 5?
It is, yeah, this is a 5-year extension, right, Margaret?
Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be purchasing electricity 1 year at a time, 2 years in advance, rolling it forward. And then we'll see how it's working. The board of directors as well, Bill will sit down. We'll see if this is really working well. And, cities want to continue, they can. If it's not doing well, we'll be the first to come back and say, okay, we're going to change this into a 5-year fixed contract, or at that point, it may be a 3-year fixed contract. But since we're going to be purchasing electricity only 1 year at a time, it's giving everybody a lot more flexibility, and also allows you to take advantage of lower rates that you can see in the market that you'll miss being in a longer term fixed contract.
But I think it's safe to say the documents assume a 5-year extension, yes.
Yeah,
There's flexibility within that 5 years as to what you do, but it does assume a 5-year extension.
And Mr. Jackson, our point person for this contract will be Susie or yourself?
It'll be Susie. The contractor, once it's approved, the contract will run through finance. Just kind of nuts and bolts on this thing. This is kind of like an insurance pool or something else. The more, we're a small city, so we're not really big enough to go in and negotiate our own rate with an electric company to make sure that we get savings based on volume. But this pool is big enough to do that. And over the previous term of the contract, we obviously had benefited from being a part of that pool because it reduced our rates compared to what other entities would have paid or what we would have paid if we did it on our own. And so there's strength in numbers. And so that was the reason that we brought it before council to consider doing it again forward, so that we can try to use the strength of other cities like ourselves and other groups like ourselves that are small, but as one become a larger unit so that we could see those savings.
So, and Mr. Jackson, one last question. The lights that we have in our city, the outside street lights, the cost of those street lights is borne by whom? By the city or by the utility company?
Well, there's a little bit of both. A lot. It depends on where the light's at.
Okay. So if we as a city council ultimately in our safe city initiative that was discussed on Sunday night opt for new street lights, there will be a cost associated with the cost of the electric service to connect those.
Yeah,
Is that accurate?
yes, if we ask for additional ones to be put in, we're going to pay for them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other questions from any other councilman? Hearing none, I would like to ask a question. In the services agreement, in section 5, there is, and section 5 is entitled Early Termination Damages. The question I'd like to ask is surrounding 5.2. And it says that if we as the customer terminate this agreement or cancel this agreement before the end of the term and refuses to accept the electric supply delivery from GEXA, that GEXA may. And so I'm a little unsettled by the word may, because that means that you might or then you might not, which is a little unsettling to me, because we don't know if you would choose to charge us. But it says GEXA may charge customer early termination damages equal to the sum of A, retail termination payment, B, the QSE services termination payment, C, the quarterly and annual adjustment payment, and D, the wholesale transaction termination payment. It does not say and or, but it says and, as if all of those fees will be assessed and we will be invoiced for all of those. So could you clear up for us why the agreement says may and who makes that determination, and explain to us what these 4 specific charges are?
Okay, I'm going to start. I'll let Bill explain the specifics of the charges, but just generally in an electricity contract, what happens is that the company is buying your electricity, ahead of time. So if you walk away from the contract and they've purchased electricity from you, then they have to recoup those costs. That is in your current contract right now with us. That if you walked away, if you said we're stopping today, you would have to pay penalties to JEXA, because they've already purchased those 5 years of electricity for you, and they're just waiting for you to use it. Under this contract, because we're only buying 1 year at a time, what's going to happen is if this program also allows you to, there are 2 on-ramp or off-ramps, one in June and one in December. In June and December, we're going to be coming back to our members and saying, if you don't like this contract for whatever reason, if you would like to convert it to a fixed contract, or even if you choose to do something else, you'll be able to tell us, stop buying power for us. And as long as you continue in TCAP until that power date is ending, those selling the energy back into the market isn't what's going to happen, because we're not going to be buying any more energy for you. Does that make sense?
That does. That does. So you're saying we have 2 times per year that we can cancel our agreement with you without paying those penalties. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the thing is, you can cancel it, but you're going to still have to purchase power through us until a certain date, and that may be 18 months later. But yes. And then if you're interested in those, what those actual costs are, Bill can jump in on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try to clarify that just a little bit. If you're into the current agreement you're under right now, when you do a fixed price contract for 5 years, the person that provides you that energy has to go out and buy 5 years of energy to sell to you. And when you terminate early, they have to suffer the market consequences, and that's what the early termination fee is. They're going to pass that market consequence on to you. That could be that you have to pay a little more if the contract price is higher than the market price and they have to resell at a lower price. Under our contract, if they resell at a better price, you get the money back, and very few contracts have that. As to the 4 items that you are talking about in the contract, when you have an energy price, those energy prices are composed of a lot of different components, and the cost of the actual energy is one. Then there's the infrastructure cost for, in this particular instance, JEXA Energy, and then there's a cost for the infrastructure to do certain market requirements that ERCOT requires. That's what the Queasy services fee is, that an affiliate of JEXA has to provide. And so those costs under a 5-year agreement have been amortized over 5 years. So while you can get out of the energy cost, they're trying to recover those costs that they incurred to sign you up under a contract that they amortized over 5 years. They're very, very minor, and I'll be happy to work them up for you. They're not a huge part of your energy costs. They're very small, but they need to recover those costs to cover their investment in you. The quarterly and annual adjustment is not an issue under this style of contract. If you convert to a fixed price, which you have the right to do twice a year, that can become an issue, but it's not here, so it's only there as a placeholder. And the wholesale transaction termination payment is the, as Margaret was saying, the energy that we've already bought for you. If you walk away before that energy is purchased or used, you need to pay the difference between the market price and the resale and what they paid for it. And that can be positive or negative. You could get a refund back. You could pay a little more. That would only be for the energy that's already purchased for you. So two of those items, the retail termination payment and the Queasy Services termination payment, are for costs that they incurred to get your business. They're very minor. I'm happy to work them up for you at a later date if needed. The quarterly and annual adjustment don't apply unless you're under a fixed price contract, which this is not at this point in time. But if you converted, it would come into effect. And the wholesale transaction termination payment is for the actual energy cost that's already been procured if you don't take it. If you take that energy that's already been procured, then it's not a problem. Does that make sense?
It does, sir. It does, sir. And you helped me out. You helped me out a lot with the understanding of those charges. Last question, going back to the first part of my question. Help me to understand why it says May.
Can I?
Yeah, I hate to play lawyer on that, so I think they say May. I'm going to give you a non-legal guess, but I'm not. But I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to get into the language. I think May because not all of the payments may occur. For example, your retail not your retail, excuse me, your wholesale transaction payment, you could actually get a refund back on that. And if you did, then that wouldn't be a payment you would have to make. That would be money coming back to you. I'm guessing on that, and I'm not, I would suggest get counsel to ask them, which we can certainly have them get in contact with you.
That makes sense, though. It makes sense based on your previous explanation. So that was very thorough. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, just your questions. Just Mr. Bill, really this comes down to playing the energy market and your role in this. And we would have the expectation that if the market gets volatile, suddenly the cost of natural gas or whatever the generating source is suddenly shoots upward. We can expect to hear from you. Don't worry about the yearly contract. We need to get you fixed into a 4-year contract. Would that be accurate?
That is anticipated to be the way it would be. And we would, if we see a trend that says that prices will be increasing, we'll come to you assuming we don't have a one-day, catastrophic event. If we see the trend moving towards not favorable to you, we'll be the first ones to come to you and say, we need to lock this down and get this done. This is all meant to help you save money, and if it's not saving you money, we want to get out of it.
All right, very good. And Ms. Sommer-Eve, you said, and this is from the minutes of I wasn't on the council then, but you made a presentation that energy credits will allow cities to say they are 100% green. What do you mean by that?
Actually, Bill can answer this question. There are what's called renewable energy credits. And when you purchase them, you can, if you purchase enough for your energy, then you can say that you're 100% green. And I'm going to actually turn this over to Bill so he can explain it so much better than I can.
Sure. A lot of cities want to be green and have green energy. And that's an admirable goal. The state of Texas created a way under this contract to claim that you're green and to be green. There's only one way to do it, and that is to buy renewable energy credits. And for example, our current contract, our current provider is about 85% wind power. That's the only assets they own in this state are wind, and they have to buy some supplemental power when the wind's not blowing. But basically what's coming to you today is about 85% wind to your city. But we don't buy the RECs because they cost money, and so you really can't claim that you're green, even though you probably are more green than most. Under this contract, we're anticipating adding that cost in because it's such a small cost. We're going to add it in so that you now can have the RECs you need to say, okay, we're 100% green under our new contract. If that's something the city does not want to do, we can take you out of it, and it's a very, very small cost addition.
Okay, and once again, this is my last question. There's a clause in here before the section 4.2. We've never been required to put up a deposit or other security when we first entered into this agreement, were we?
No.
No. Okay. And all right, very good. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other questions for those representatives here for item 4A? Hearing none, we'll move to new business, and I will ask Mr. Jackson to go ahead and take over the workshop.
Okay, Mayor, we are on item number 5A. Let me find my item number 5A, which is discussion relating to adopting resolution number R-2021-001, calling for the general election to be held on May 1st, 2021 to elect one mayor, one council member for District A, and one council member for District C, each for a 3-year term. We have Robin on here if she needs to add anything else to it. The resolution is in front of you. Standard operating procedure that we have to do for each election. Robin, anything else you want to add in?
I don't have anything else to add. It's just that time of the year in the Secretary of State's election law calendar where we do have to call for an election if we anticipate, if there's any members, council members, positions coming up in May. So we do have to call it at this time.
Any questions or comments on item number 5A?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jackson or council. I'd like to see another polling location added to this city for the west side of town. That would serve the Painted Meadows, the new subdivision trails at Woodhaven Lake Estates, the Delaney Cove area, the Saltgrass. Analyzation after this last election, because of the COVID, the secondary polling place that was normally used by that end of town was the primary school down 2004, right down the road from them. That was in Hitchcock. That, of course, was closed due to COVID. So they made a polling place over at the Hitchcock City Hall. A little bit farther drive for our residents, but it was extremely small. There were a lot of complaints about people trying to get in there. Employee parking, took up most of the spaces. If you've ever been there, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I'm proposing that we have another one because of our growth in our city and on that west side, to have another polling place, possibly at utilizing conference facilities at our fire station. And it can be isolated even during a time of COVID. We were able to do it with the community room. We should be able to do it there too. After like I say, the analyzation of the votes, it's been found that there were a lot of people that would have normally voted and have voted in the past, did not vote, even in this contested presidential election. And I see that as the lack of the polling place. And if we don't have that in there, I see that as disenfranchising the voters and possibly disenfranchising any candidates that are going to run.
Okay.
I think I had mentioned this before in the November election because Mr. Mitch Titchett, you sent me an email, or we talked about this, didn't we? About
Yes.
utilizing a different, yeah. You sent me an email and I had forwarded that on to the elections administrator with the county. And they were going to talk about it for the May election. It's just a matter of, we do have to amend this resolution once the filing period is over in February, because we won't know what entities are going to even have an election until after the filing period. So that's when they pick their polling places and stuff. But
okay, well, and if that school reopens, that makes this a moot point. But if it doesn't, if the school district decides they're not going to participate, I want it on record that we as a council are going to support a second polling place within our city and that we do that and amend that with the county. And we need to do that tonight.
Well, so Robin, what I heard you say was, I mean, council can voice support that they want to do that, but this resolution, we can't do that. Is that what I heard you say, Robin?
Yeah, there's nothing in this that even has any polling locations yet, because we don't know what entities are going to have it. I mean, you can go on record to say that you do want another polling location, you know, a countywide, because that's what it'll be, because Galveston County is countywide polling location. So it'll be for anybody in Galveston County to vote there. So yeah, it's just not going to be part of this resolution because there is no polling locations even mentioned on this one.
Well, I'm looking at it on section 2 where it says the main polling place, and
yeah,
it lists the Lamarque, community room. So that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
Because that's only showing one. That's on
Look farther into the actual resolution, because it says that we will be bringing that back once the polling locations. It says it's on section 5. It's unknown at this time which entities will be holding an election after the filing deadline. The final polling locations will be established, and this resolution will have to be amended.
So, Mayor, if I can speak to it just a little bit. Councilman Mitch Titch, what we'll do is just make a note to keep an eye on that. Once we do have the final polling places, if there's only one set up for Lamarque, at that point we can contact the county and see what we can do to add the extra polling place, negotiate, moving one if there's not one very close, or potentially offering the fire station as a polling place if they don't have one already set up on that side of town.
Thank you. I realize that it could incur some extra costs, but I think it's important for our voters and for those candidates that may run. And that's something we'll have to do from here on out as we grow.
Yeah.
And Mayor, if there are extra costs incurred, we'll have to bring that back to council anyway.
I realize that, but I hope the rest of the council incurs about the enfranchising the voters.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mayor.
No, I was just going to say, absolutely, Councilman Mistich, I totally agree with you. We want to provide more opportunities for our citizens to vote. And so I personally am in total agreement with you on this. I would suggest, Councilman Mistich, that when this item comes up in the regular meeting for us to take action, that you would restate your potential amendment so that it would be on the record and in the minutes, so that we can go back and deal with it at such a time that we are actually deciding on polling locations. But definitely, I am with you, and I am in favor of more access to voting. Are there any other questions or comments from other council members?
So I would just add, at the time you make the motion needs to be to approve this resolution, but that you could further direct the administration to work to ensure that we have that second polling place in town. So, because we don't want to mess up the resolution. The resolution's got to be called a certain way. But so don't make it part of the motion, but just make a motion to approve and direct administration to work on the second polling place.
Thank you, Mayor.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And
any other comments?
Yes, I would just like to say that I'm also in complete agreement. More polling locations, more access to voting. Always good. Thank you, Councilman Michitich, for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you, Ms. Councilman McCall.
Any other comments on item 5A? Seeing none, moving on to 5B, discussion relating to entering into a contract with the Galveston County Clerk and Galveston County Election Officer for the general election to be held on May 1st, 2021, and possible runoff election on June 15th, 2021. Again, standard operating procedure, we do this for each election. I'll let Ms. Eldridge, if she has any comments off the bat, make some comments, and then we'll answer your questions. Robin, you got anything on this one?
I really do not. It's a standard contract that we've been doing with them.
Any questions or comments on item number 5B?
Yeah.
Item number 5C, discussion relating to adopting ordinance number O-2021-001, amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget by increasing various account expenditures and decreasing various fund balances as set forth in Exhibit A. I don't know, we get Susie back on. I think she was, yeah, she's back on. So I'm gonna let Susie start off with this one, and then we'll answer your questions after she gets done.
Yes, these are just the general things like what city manager just added new positions, some settlements. So those are unanticipated major items that we could not have anticipated during the summertime when we were going through the budget workshop for 2021.
Well, and then also it has the second fire truck and the vac truck that were previously approved, and the 2020 SEAL project payments for those that we did not know exactly when those bills would come in, but you had previously approved those expenditures. And so now that we have the invoices for those, it's time to pay those. So those were also included in that as well. So now, whatever questions, comments you have, we'll be happy to answer your questions or comments.
Are there any questions or comments for the city manager as it relates to item 5C?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Of course, this was done before me, but my question is, this money is all being taken. I see the little negative. It says fund balance. How much is our fund balance after all of these adjustments?
This should be, well, we haven't closed really the year yet for 2020 because we haven't gone through the audit yet, but current best guess, all projections right now, it's around 4.5 million. That's the general fund balance. And our policy requires us to have a minimum of 90 days, which we do have in our fund balance.
Okay.
And the $1 million storm reserve was council established last year, and that's also in fund balance also.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in that 4.5 million or separate?
That's in that 4.5 million.
That 4.5 million. I will just make this comment with regard to one of our citizens' comments earlier, and I think that was Mr. Carlson, if I'm not mistaken. But during our town hall on Sunday, I did hear from various individuals that were also trying to understand the concept of 2 city managers in our small community. And so, as I understand, this is a first reading. We're not going to pass it tonight. Is that your process, Mr. Mayor?
Joe, I believe that the agenda speaks to discussion and possible action, if I'm not mistaken.
It is an ordinance, Mayor, so it would be a first reading.
Yes. So that means that we are anticipating action tonight, but because it's an ordinance, there have to be 2 readings, and we'll have to take action twice with a public hearing on the second reading with a 30-day period before the ordinance takes effect. So this is the first reading. We will take action one way or the other tonight, unless we table.
And so I'm the newbie here. I'm trying to understand that. And so we'll take a vote tonight on a first reading. Is that correct?
That's
and
correct.
Then, however, that doesn't mean we're implementing anything, correct?
There will still be a second reading.
And then there will be a second reading, at which time citizens can participate in a public hearing on this ordinance and these changes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. But before the second reading.
And then we'll take action there. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Can I add something? And Dara may want to do this too. According to our charter, if there's going to be any substantial change to the ordinance between the first and the second reading, when I post it for the public hearing notice, that change has to be with the caption of the ordinance too. So, And I've got 10 days from, well, 7 days before the next public hearing, before the next council meeting that has to be posted. So, you know, you can step in if you want to, Dara. But
Let me kind of put it this way, kind of in layman's terms. Councilman Compion, so you have resolutions and ordinances, but with ordinances, because they carry more weight, there are 2 readings on those. And the idea is you have the first reading. If there's something that you want to change, you make that change during the first reading. It gives everybody the chance to talk about it, to get what they really, what they think they would support in the final reading, so that when you do that, you can't substantially change it at the final reading and approve it. So it gives you the chance to make those changes at the first reading, so that when you get to the second reading, you don't have a substantial change and have to have an additional reading and an additional public hearing.
Okay, I think I understand. So just to be clear, as the new guy here, I want to respect the work that the council has done on this. Councilman Mitchnich, former Councilman Lane, Councilwoman McAuliffe, and Mayor Bell. So I'm not seeking to alter anything. I'm wanting to point out that it is the concern expressed of people that talk to me during our Sunday format of how do you justify 2 city managers. And so I hope that that once this is passed, that we achieve the objectives, Mr. Jackson, that you very clearly set out in the documentation here with regard to the objectives that you have in mind, and that those be clearly communicated to the citizens. Because first and foremost, what I heard in doing this is there's going to be greater accessibility to our staff, our management staff, and that I think our residents greatly appreciate. That's all I had, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any other questions or comments as it relates to item 5C?
I just wanted to, add to this conversation that, the addition of this assistant city manager is something that we have talked about for a while, and Mr. Compion is correct in that, as the city manager laid out in our agenda notes, and as we've discussed, and I think this definitely has to be something that is made super transparent, and in fact would be, Colleen's going to be all over that. It's good stuff to share, that not only does this increase accessibility to the municipality leadership, but also it increases expertise. And from what I can tell, and from my experience sitting on council for the last 3 years, it's that also it's a means towards more effective divide and conquer, right? More energy and resources going towards the things that are constantly on the forefront of our citizens' minds. And I am very much looking forward to the day when we get to really loudly with confetti talk about Mr. Jordan's addition to the city, because I think he brings a lot to the table. And I think him working with the longtime expertise and finesse of Charlene and Tink's leadership, I'm really excited about where the leadership of the city is going to go. But I agree, and I completely echo Councilman Compion that fear comes from the uncertainty of like, what's happening? Why is this happening? This looks like just another salary and it freaks me out. And why is that money not going somewhere else? And those are really valid questions, and citizens should ask us those questions. So I echo your sentiment that I'd like to see the ways in which we're going to share this information so that it's really, really clear to the citizenry. But thank you. Oh, and this was something I checked in with Tink about earlier, because it wasn't quite clear in the financial breakdown, but I know it's proposed that there is a salary difference in the city managers that recognizes the expertise and the experience of Ms. Warren, which I think is extremely important to note. So, all right, I'm done. Thank you.
Mayor, I want to kind of add in a little bit because I think Councilwoman McCullough started to hit a couple of things there, and I think it's important that we flesh those things out maybe a whole lot deeper real quick, because it is important that everybody understands where this came from and why we did this. Included in your packet, and of course anybody that looked at the city packet saw this today. But you guys will remember, you and Councilwoman McAuliffe and Councilman Mitch, and of course Mr. Lane, who came back to visit us tonight so we could see his dapper picture on there one more time. We'll remember that when I first started, especially you three will remember in my interview, one of the things we talked about was assistant city manager positions and changing the structure of the city manager's office to make it more effective. And that was a comment or a conversation we had before I even came to work here. As soon as I came to work here, I talked to you guys all the way back in October, prior to October of 2019. But in October of 2019, I talked to you about the fact that I'd put out a policy to the staff because under the strategic plan that was approved in 2014 and 2015, two of the items that were two of the 12 critical issues was developing leaders and keeping good leaders here. Those were two things the public was extremely worried about the way we developed our people and that we kept competent people here, so we didn't end up in a revolving door situation where people came and left, and you lost that good historical knowledge that people had from being here. So in 2019, I put out a policy to the staff, to all the directors, that required them to draft and put together a succession plan for their departments. So basically, how are they training each level, from the lowest level position we have in the office to the highest level position? How are they training those people to have a career ladder here? How are they training people to be able to do the job above them? And that included them training their replacements. I've always been a firm believer in succession plans. I've always been a believer in that line of succession, because the reality is each day when each one of us gets up to come to work, there's a possibility we don't make it to the office. I mean, that's I'm not trying to be gloom and doom, but that's a reality. And I've seen that happen before with directors that worked underneath me. So it's important that you have that line of succession, because my job as the city manager is to make my primary job is to make sure that if I don't make it to work tomorrow because something happened to me, that the city doesn't miss a beat, that somebody knows what we were doing, somebody can continue the projects that we were doing, continue the work that we were doing, continue talking to the developers, continue moving the Safe City initiative forward, make sure that we don't lose a beat in any positive work that we're doing within the city. So in 2019, I started on that succession plan. We met, we talked about it in executive session, and it was implemented with the staff. And I started on implementing the succession plan for City Hall. And if you'll remember, one of the first things I did after I came here was we moved an employee out of the city manager's office into the city clerk's office and developed a deputy city clerk so that we had succession in there. We had two people that knew what was going on, because your city clerk is that's the memories of your city. And you don't want to get to a point where you have a city clerk retire and you don't have anybody that knows where those memories are at. And so we started the process there. So one of the first things we did was move an employee out of the city manager's office to the city clerk's office to do that. And we have been talking about the succession plan and implementing it all the way back then. Of course, we had different budget priorities, and we've constantly, each year we sit down during the budget workshop and we look at those budget priorities and we try to assign a priority what we can with what limited available funds that we have, because obviously we don't have limited available funds either. But I think, the last 4, 5, 6 months, we've seen some things happen. We've had some things happen, and it's made it very clear that the getting that succession plan fully implemented in this office was very important. That it became a priority that was not a 10th or 11th priority, but became one of the top priorities for the city to move forward and get that in place, so that we do have more access to the office, so that we do have people out of the administration office that can be out there face to face with people all the time, every day, because we do have so many moving parts going on within the city. So I just wanted to follow up on what Councilwoman McCullough said there. I mean, this is something we've been talking about since I got here. And it just felt like with everything that was going on and all the stuff that we've had happening lately, that this was the time to move forward with it and get it implemented.
Okay. Are there any other questions concerning this item? Mr. Jackson, I have a couple of questions as relates to this item. First and foremost, let's look at a couple of things before we get into the assistant city manager's discussion. There is an item in our budget amendment that talks about the I-45 corridor project fund balance of about $71,000. What is that related to?
That is the beautification project that that the city council approved in the 2019 contract, in the 2019-2020 budget, the contract with the citizens. That was the aesthetics portion of that project that you guys approved so that we could do the beautification of the 45 corridors that came through town. That's the first payment for it.
Secondly, there's an item in this amendment that speaks to certain employee settlement. And my question is there any type of liability insurance that we might be able to acquire that would help us if in fact we have the same situation in the future, help us to mitigate some of these costs that are associated with this settlement. For example, we have liability insurance with TML, and if there are certain claims made against our city, we pay a deductible, and TML actually takes the majority of the claim. Is there any type of liability insurance that we might be able to acquire for issues as they relate to employee legal action against our city?
You know, I'm not sure about that, but that's sure something that Dara and I and Susie can sit down and talk about. I've never heard anything like that, but we sure ask and find out. Check around.
Yeah, definitely not to my knowledge, but I'm happy to help, Mr. Jackson, Mayor.
Okay, just curious. Curious. So we find ourselves back, Mr. Jackson, at this proposal for 2 assistant city managers, and I think the main issue, as I understand it, is not necessarily that you had a succession plan in mind, because those are some of the things that we discussed with you when we were recruiting you to come to our city. So the council has knowledge that we need to make sure that there's always a succession plan in place for our staff and personnel, especially those key positions. But speak to me and speak to those concerned citizens about how you recruited Mr. Jordan in particular, because Ms. Warren was already here, but how you recruited him, how you hired him, and how you were able to give him the title of assistant city manager before any official council action. I think that's one of the main rubs on this discussion, is that although council may have been aware of Mr. Jordan's impending arrival, the community was not aware of Mr. Jordan's impending arrival. And in fact, Mr. Jordan has had to hit the ground running, which means he's had several conversations in our community as it relates to very important and sensitive issues. And he has represented himself to be the assistant city manager without any formal council action. So talk to us about how that occurred, and where in our policy and procedure or our city charter you were able to find way to execute this before council official approval.
So a couple items there. One, dealing with the creation and execution of the position prior to council approval. When the council approves the budget at the start of each year, there's a budgeted line item for salaries within the city manager's budget. That budgeted line item then is available for expenditure by policy from the council. It's not necessarily tied. It's calculated for council based on the existing positions at the time. But there is not a provision in the charter or in the personnel policy that specifically says that a position has to be created by council prior to creation of the position internally through administration. So based on what was happening in the city, especially during the month of December, based on the need to get some additional boots on the ground, dealing with the outreach from the city to the citizens. That's why I made the decision to go ahead and get him in here. We're not spending outside of the budget. We're not doing anything that is outside of the charter or outside of state law. At some point, obviously, towards the end of the year, we would have a budget issue if it wasn't approved by council. But at the time we did it, it was not anything that had to be approved by council prior to that. And I think it's not something that we would normally do without trying to get council to approve it first. But there was so much going on and so much that we needed to get started on quickly that there really wasn't. I made the decision to go ahead and move forward with it after I talked to a couple of you. Mr. Jordan has a very specific skill set that he brings to this job. I've known Mr. Jordan since I first came to Texas. Well, since shortly after I first came to Texas. He served as a city manager in a sister city to the city where I came from. He has a very specific skill set that gives him a unique outlook to be able to work on public safety issues. And based on the events in December and January, I knew I needed somebody in here that could focus their time on just public safety. I think what most people don't understand is on a daily basis, I could spend the whole day focused on just each department, and there's 13 departments. I mean, there's a lot of different things to do, and there's a lot of moving parts. The first year I was here, had to spend a significant amount of time focused on the fire department. And so those other departments didn't get as much as I would have liked to have put in them. There's only so many hours in the day. And so, we're not seeing the fast, because there was so much to do in some of the departments. It was going to take a long time for me to actually be able to run the whole city, but then be able to take one department at a time and try to revamp each department. And when December came around, after we got through December, it was no doubt that we couldn't continue to move like that. We needed to get more people focused on individual departments with a smaller scope of work for their departments that had skills and abilities that were able to do it. And Mr. Jordan has a very distinct skill set when it comes to public safety, and he was available. I've worked with him before. I know him. He is a very honorable man. He is full of integrity, and he has a very good, lifetime background when it comes to public service or when it comes to public safety. Pretty easy decision for me to select him to be the one to come in and do this.
And I understand where you're coming from. Let me ask you this: before tonight, when was his actual start date with our city?
December 21st. So we had the week of Christmas for 3 days, the week between Christmas and New Year's, which was 4 days, and then I think last week was his first full week.
And so up until tonight, because we're scheduled to take action tonight, was Mr. Jordan working for and in our city as a contract employee, or was he working as a full-time staff member?
Full-time probationary staff member.
Okay. And so again, Mr. Jackson, speak to the community about how you are able to appoint a person to a position that has not yet been approved by council, before we took action. I want our community to be clear on your right, your responsibility, and your authority as it relates to this, because this, I believe, is the rub. Is that people want to know exactly what authority you possess to do this, and they want to know exactly how this happened. I know that we all believe and we all know factually that we have had a rough month. And I know personally my time with Mr. Jordan has been fruitful. And he is a very impressive person who has impacted our community immediately. But I think they just want more clarification, Mr. Jackson. So what in your authority allowed you to do this in this way?
Okay, I'm going to ask Dara for a little bit of follow-up here, because Dara and I discussed this before the decision was made. So I'll let Dara take over here for a second.
Thank you. So, Mayor, in answer to your question, the day-to-day operations of the city fall within the scope of the city manager's authority, and that's going to include, establishing positions, changing positions, amending job descriptions, and that goes all the way down for anyone below him, all the way to the bottom rungs of all our valuable employees who work for the city. The only time that something's going to be outside the scope of his authority is when it is an actual appointed officer of the city. So for instance, there are things that he can't direct me to do as the city attorney, or things that have to do with my particular position and ethical responsibilities to the council as city attorney that fall outside of that relationship. The municipal judge would be another one of those instances. Beyond that, he cannot create a department without bringing it to council. That could be in the form of the budget, which has details about a whole lot of things that are going to happen in the city over that next year. But the council has to be able to see that in some form and take formal action on it when he's creating departments. As long as he is hiring someone who's, this would not be considered a city officer, so to speak, like a municipal judge or a city attorney or a city clerk. As long as he is hiring someone and it is within the allotted budget line item, he would still be within his authority. If it hits the point where the budget money is not appropriated for that purpose within his department, he would have to bring it on to council. And so that's where, not only is Mr. Jordan a probationary employee, but I think he's well aware of that also, is that it's possible if council didn't appropriate whatever additional money is required for his salary, whether it's this year or next year, that he might not have a job anymore. And that's technically true for all of us. If the budget money wasn't appropriated, we might not have jobs.
Okay. Moving from Mr. Jordan to Ms. Warren, Tink, talk to the community a little bit about your thought process and your contemplation as you executed the promotion of Ms. Warren from assistant to the city manager to assistant city manager.
So a couple of very quickly noticeable items with her. One, she's been an employee of the city for 26 years. She's been in the office, in the city manager's office for now, I believe, 6 or 7 years. She has been the one, not only during my time, but during the previous city manager's time here as well. She was the liaison to the city council during the previous city manager. So almost all the interaction with the office to the council members was through her. She's been a liaison to different departments, to different boards. She's been a liaison to the community at large. She knows everybody in the community and has a very good relationship with the people in the community. And is just about finished with the Certified Public Managers Program, which was the program that we established, the training we established last year for people to receive additional training when it comes to public management. So making the promotion, the title change from assistant to the city manager to assistant city manager, pretty easy decision with her as well.
Last question, Tink, on this, and I'm trying to make sure that every question that has been asked of me about this, I ask you so that you can publicly have a chance to communicate with the community. Earlier, one of our participants, Mr. Carlson, spoke to the idea that a city our size does not necessarily need 2 assistant city managers. Would you like to speak to that?
Well, I think there's a couple of points there, and I mean I think that's a legitimate comment when you look at the way some cities are structured. I've seen cities that are equivalent size to this or smaller that had 3 or 4 assistant city managers, but they were also department directors. So you'll have an assistant city manager of finance, you'll have an assistant city manager of public works, you'll have an assistant city manager of a department. And I think that's a misclassification when cities rename when they rename their directors as an assistant city manager, unless that person takes on additional duties, then they should not receive those titles. So I mean, we could look at expansion of some of the other stuff that we need to, but I think keeping it centralized was important in this. And I think as we saw yesterday at the Safe City Initiative meeting that we had, we've seen this in a lot. As a city our size, we provide a lot of services that cities our size don't provide. We have a full-time fire department and full-time EMS, to where even cities like League City have a volunteer fire department. So our departments in our city operate a little bit differently than some of those larger cities operate. And so it's good to have a narrower scope of work when you're providing services above and beyond what cities our size or even larger are providing, because it gives more access for the directors to be able to come in and ask questions. And my thought in this, we've started some things since I've been here that we've tried to get to certain points with certain things. And there's just so much that we get so many irons in the fire that sometimes we can't keep them all hot. There's so many opportunities the city never participated in before. We've got about $60 million in grant applications sitting out there right now that somebody's got to stay focused on, and somebody's got to keep working on, and somebody's got to be the prod on those to make sure that we keep those going. We've got so many. We've got CPM trainings going on. We got so many other things going on the city never had before. And you have to have a person that has enough room on their plate to be able to keep all those things up front, keep them focused. And then with the Safe City Initiative, like we saw last night, we know from this point forward, we've got to do a lot more in our community as far as what we're doing with those departments, with fire and police, and how we're interacting with the public, and what we're doing as an administration to support those departments. And to support the community in interacting with those departments. And so, I mean, that just that initiative is going to turn into, if we do it correctly, just that initiative is going to turn into almost a full-time job for somebody to make sure that we're keeping the public informed, that we're having those interactions with the public, that we're doing all those things. And it's going to take a person that's focused on those things to make sure that they're successful. So that was what the thought was in doing this and setting it up the way we set it up, and bringing in Mr. Jordan, who has that extensive background in public safety, to be that person to work with the fire chief, to work with the police chief, to work with those departments, to keep those things on a daily basis, to make sure we're keeping those things moving, we're keeping them going forward, we're keeping in contact with the citizens. We're talking about what does it take to add in additional street lights? What does it take to get neighborhood watch going on our street, and somebody to be in constant contact with them and making sure that we're keeping those things moving forward. And we talked about this I think in the town hall the other night. A city our size, yes, but we have some very unique traits about our city that even though we're a small city, we want to feel like a small town, but we don't. We have big city problems here. And those big city problems take people with abilities to address, and it takes more than the normal structure to be able to address those things. You know, it'd be nice if we were a 17,000 person city that had 17,000 person city problems, but we're a 17,000 person city that has, you know, metropolis problems at times. And so it takes a little different structure and a little different group of people to be able to keep what's important focused and keep it moving forward. So that was the structure in setting it up. That was the basis in setting it up this way.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Jackson as relates to item 5C? Mr. Jackson.
Okay, seeing none, moving on to item 5D.
I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson. I was on mute. And sometimes I'm playing a game show here with this, but the mayor's questions brought up 2 items. First, and I think this is council in the future, I'd like to get some clarity as to what the city's policy is with regard to the creation of new positions and whether there's a requirement that they be posted. That's number one. And certainly something at this level, I don't know the details, whether it was a job posting. I heard Mr. Jackson say that it was someone that he's familiar with. So I would like some clarity as to what we do when new positions open up. Because I'm going to say this very clearly, I'm adamantly against, oh, I know you, come aboard and start working here at the city. That doesn't sit well with me. And then, and number 2, I hope that we as a council understand that the concerns Mr. Carlson mentioned earlier as to other initiatives for youth and other funding of perhaps additional police and or efforts to provide our police force greater opportunities for growth, that those funding initiatives that we seriously look at. I think that I read in the paper in the old year, 2020, that we have some money coming to us from the opioid settlement, if not mistaken, which is about $80,000. So I hope that we as a city will be looking at this to perhaps fund some of the initiatives and ideas that Mr. Carlson mentioned. That's all. Oh, and the last thing, ultimately, and Tink doesn't know me that well, but we know each other, right? But he's seen me in terms of my work on the Keep Lamarck Beautiful Commission. I'm ultimately a progress person. And under our city manager form of government, the person that I'm looking for the greatest progress is one person, and that's you, Mr. Jackson. And so that's the basis of my, I'm supportive of what you're trying to do. So I don't want to be the person that's throwing any monkey wrench in this, but let's get these positive outcomes going, because I think the citizens, all of us want a great, beautiful, strong Lamarck.
Agreed.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Jackson.
Item number 5D, discussion related to city manager's update on city operations during COVID-19. At the end of the last council meeting, then Mayor Pro Tem Bell asked me to provide to the council a updated COVID-19 operations plan. So attached in your packet was a copy of a proposed updated plan with some discussion as to why we've done things the way that we've done them. Some of the things that we've seen during the course of this, and some other items. And rather than read the memo, I think I'll just give you guys the opportunity to ask questions or to provide comments, and then we can talk about the proposed criteria for reopening that's at the end of the memo, if that suits your will.
Council, does that suit your will? Are there any questions for Mr. Jackson as it relates to item 5D?
Well, Mr. Jackson, are you also hearing from our residents that they'd like to have some sort of accessibility to City Hall? I guess that's fundamentally what I keep hearing now. Some sort of accessibility to City Hall. I'm an older person now. I wake up every morning, I'm 18 years old, but the reality is I'm not. And I'm a person now of habit. I don't mind going down to City Hall to pay my water bill. It provides me an opportunity to see Miss Esther when I walk in the door, to see Charlene, whomever, could be you or whomever. So I have to admit I miss that. And but those are the concerns that I'm hearing is accessibility to City Hall is, I think, perhaps something that is of greater concern right now.
Well, if I may,
Go ahead, Casey, go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for providing us with this update. And there's a couple of things in it that I do want to ask questions about or make a point about. But overall, I want to say that for myself, I am elated and relieved that we have a city manager and city leadership that decided early on to take COVID as seriously as it needed to be. I am in no hurry to make face-to-face interactions with it happen more often for our city staff. We are surrounded by municipalities that have incurred lots of infection. Unfortunately, some have experienced and are grieving death amongst their staff. I mean, there's not a single person among us who doesn't miss more people. I mean, so many things. We are all grieving, both the small and the very, very large. But ultimately, a city has to keep everyone safe. And if we are not valuing the health and safety of our staff first and foremost, then we're in the wrong. And so I've been very happy with the protocol that's been happening, and I'm very pleased that it is based on the scientific statistics that we were provided by the health district, that it follows CDC guidelines, and that it is in no hurry to push the goalpost closer for when we can bring back interactions and when we can open City Hall to the public, just to have to move it back again, just as our neighbors in Galveston are unfortunately having to do right now. So I wanted to make that very clear from my standpoint, that I've also been like, there are myriad new inconveniences that come with this new way of life, and City Hall has not escaped some of those inconveniences, particularly to a lot of our citizenry. I would say that there have also been a lot of ways that the city is more accessible now. Not to everybody, and that's not across the board, but I do believe that I see our city working for balance and trying to make itself as accessible as possible, which means it's not perfect, and which means some people are missing out and some people are getting better service than they ever did. You know, I believe it's a mix, but overall, I feel like what is happening is the right thing because it is taking this pandemic seriously. There are far too many people dying for us to not take it so incredibly seriously. And on that very serious and grim note, back to you, Tink.
Thank you, Mr. Campion. To answer your question, I've had a couple of people complain about accessibility to City Hall. Best I can tell, those complaints have come around payment of utility bills, and it's been on due dates, and it's been where it was on the last day to pay the bill without a late fee. And unfortunately, we do on occasion, we do see some longer lines on those days. You know, we have tried to impress on everybody, you know, there are multiple ways to pay. They can pay online, they can come to the drive-through, they can drop at the night drop. We have the kiosk, they can stick it in the mail. I mean, there's multiple ways to pay where you don't have to wait in line. But after this last complaint that I got about somebody waiting in line, we did talk to the utility billing supervisor, and now they've started going out and taking payments from people in line who are not paying with cash and who do not necessarily want a receipt right then. They'll go and take their payment so they can get out of line and move on. And the lines have been significantly shorter since then. Mayor Bell had asked me a few days ago if we could look at the potential of another spot where people could pay another, looking at the potential of another drop box or something someplace else. And Susie and I are talking about that tomorrow. We'll get Lee in here. We'll talk about that tomorrow to make sure that if we can provide an alternative location that reduces those lines even farther, we'll definitely do that. That's been the majority of the complaint that I've heard has been about people waiting in line to pay utility bills. Quite honestly, we've done some things at the library to try to give people access at the library again with scheduled times, whatever. Anybody who has called in and asked for a face-to-face meeting with somebody here at City Hall has got it. We have a big conference room and we can spread out. We can get people in here so they can, if they want to. But I do understand something else you said there about coming in and saying hi to Esther. I mean, that was part of people's routine, and they like that. And it's unfortunate that those right now the times don't allow for that visiting, so to speak. The pleasantries, so to speak. And of course, nobody can come in and chit chat with Esther anymore because Esther retired at the end of the year. So, yeah, I understand that. But it is so much more important to me that we keep our employees and our citizens healthy and not have that 2 or 3 minutes of that interaction than it is to just open the doors back up and have that interaction. We have done very good with keeping our employees healthy. Our employees have appreciated the way what we've done to keep them healthy. So outside of work, they're doing extra to take care of themselves outside of work to make sure that they don't get have a chance to become infected. And I've heard some comments about, well, if you don't open City Hall, that's one thing, but everybody's still going to HEB. So what's the difference? Well, there's a big difference in just passing somebody in HEB or sitting with them at a utility desk while they're opening an account for 30 minutes. There's a big difference in your chance of being exposed to somebody like that. So I think what we've done it's proven that it's worked. And just when you look at our numbers and our employees, we haven't had huge issues with our employees. Now we've had some employees that have contracted. We've not had an employee contracted at work. We have definitely not had a single employee contracted at work, which means we've not given it to a citizen at work. So to me, that's very important. I mean, I appreciate Councilwoman McAuliffe bringing up, what she said there at the start. We did take this extremely serious from the start. We were one of the first cities to start closing things down, and it showed. It showed in our original numbers here in the Marque, because everybody else had a major explosion before we started seeing our numbers going up here. And it's unfortunate, but we've got a governor's order right now that says 50% in restaurants, and every restaurant you drive by right now has got they're 100% occupancy. Nobody's paying attention to it. But you look at our numbers right now. I think we had a 312 case day last week. Was almost 600 cases for the last 2 days was the number we got today. 11 deaths in December. I mean, the numbers are just they're skyrocketing again with Christmas and New Year's and everybody ignoring what's going on. I'm gonna fight for the safety of the employees and the safety of citizens on this. And if anybody has a complaint about something, we're trying to work with them and get through it with them. And I know one of the complaints was about not having access to the council at public meetings. I heard that yesterday at the event. And I don't know how you can get more access than what we have right now. I mean, quite honestly, you sit at home in your underwear and watch the meeting right now. When could you do that before? You couldn't do that before. We've done everything we can to expand access. DARE's Department of Development Services, everything online. We have done a lot to expand the opportunities for people to interact with our city since the start of this, and we're going to keep doing that. But keeping in mind that there are people that prefer face-to-face contact, and if we can, all they got to do is let us know. We'll do what we can to provide it.
And Tink, I've early on when we started this, highly supportive of what we've done in this regard. And this is just, I said, addressing some of these comments, but I also would like our residents to recognize something. And Councilwoman McAuliffe was very, very helpful in reminding me of this. COVID comes with a high financial cost. It's not only the loss of the life, but in the case of our situation, you put it in your report that the medical costs associated with the care of the person could could jeopardize our financial position in terms of costs associated under that. So we're trying to do everything, and I compliment you on that side. And
following up on that comment you just made about the insurance, since I've been here, we were having to struggle to come back from a financial situation on insurance. We had a very large claim against the city's insurance pool, and the first year that I was here, we had to significantly reduce our insurance coverage because of the size of that claim. And if we had 1 or 2 COVID claims to go on top of, because part of that claim fell off, so we did better this year, and we're hoping to do even better again next year because the rest of that claim would fall off. One big COVID claim, we'd be right back in the same boat.
Mm-hmm. Good. And I can assure you I have my pants on. Thank you.
Oh, I do have one more. I guess this would be the time for me to point out one more thing about the update letter. Felt like it's not something I take issue with, but I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't address Tink. There was 2 points. There's one point I totally sympathize with your assessment that as a municipality we can't require the vaccine. But I wondered whether there are ways, and this might just be a flat no, but if there are ways to incentivize taking the vaccine other than just, obviously connecting people as much as we can to the information about how to get it. I would assume that we would do that anyway. But, and I'm sending my thoughts to Dara right now to is there a legal way and a kosher way to incentivize taking the vaccine that doesn't, not to penalize anyone else, but to just encourage it?
Maybe.
Okay. Well, that's something I'm interested in. I'd love to know more about that. Because, digging into the CDC, it's the only thing I'll take issue with in your update, Tink, is the vaccine is proven to be highly effective. And I know there are concerns for folks with different autoimmune complications, but everything I'm finding on the CDC is, and, established legitimate medical journals and whatnot, is that the vaccine is incredibly, incredibly effective. And so I just want us to be promoting it as a city as much as we can within our legal parameters of which we are allowed to do so. And there was one other thing. I think there was a section where you mentioned the triggers that would cause us to, that would signify we were ready to open up again. And there was one phrase in there that I was like, oh, I want it to be stronger than that. It was a consideration to close after 2 consecutive weeks of 5% positivity rates or above. I would argue that I would like to see an automatic closure again, if it's at that rate, and not a consideration to close. And maybe that's really what that means. And I'm just being nitpicky, but.
Okay, so a couple of things just to follow up there real quick, Councilwoman McAuliffe. One, the reason that I put the statement in there about the unknown effective rate of the deal is because that is straight off of the disclaimer that comes with the Pfizer vaccine when you go take the vaccine. 6-page disclaimer, and their disclaimer says efficiency is unknown. So that's why I put that in there. Okay. And so what it says, so what I had done with the proposed criteria was to say, okay, instead of just saying in perpetuity, this is the way it's going to be, let's look at this for the next 3 months through April. I think it was through the April meeting was what I'd actually put in here for, through the April meeting. If you want that word changed, I think I would be fine with changing that one word instead of we would consider, just say we would have full closure again until the criteria were met again.
Yeah,
that's fine. It was so short term. I was thinking that it probably wouldn't be an issue, but I mean, that's fine with me.
That's what I assumed as well. It just felt like I'm so proud at the very definite stance that we have had as a city in taking this seriously and putting public health paramount to everything else, that I felt like just another opportunity to say, it's not a consideration. It's not a conversation. This is what happens. Anyway, that's all.
Go ahead, Dara.
Yeah, so I actually would advise leaving it within a little bit of discretion for Mr. Jackson, only because there might be some unintended situations. And I'm thinking here on the unlikely event we had, an early hurricane season or something to that effect. There might be instances where we need to do like a partial closure, as opposed to a full closure, some sort of crazy something where he needs to get public works out on the streets or something to that effect. So my advice would be to go ahead and leave him with a little discretion, but with the understanding that barring one of those crazy situations, the closure should be automatic.
That's fine with me.
Councilwoman McCall, if just to tag on your comments there about the vaccine, I was talking to Ms. Martin today, and I want everyone to know that I participated in one of the Moderna trials. And when you start the program, you don't know whether you're getting the vaccine or a placebo. Is it the placebo, right? Yes. And so today I had the pleasure of finding out this morning, my sister and myself, she's from Austin, but hunkering down here as well. And that both of us on October the 9th of this year received our first of our Moderna shots. And then on the 11th of 11/6, we received the second one. So although I'm still fat and ugly, I am someone that has chronic health conditions. That's to say, I'm diabetic. I happen to be in one of the high risk groups, high cholesterol, my blood pressure issues, and I haven't in all of this grown some other limb or my hair's gotten longer. I think that's about it. I think it's helping grow my hair. I have to say that. But I would urge people it's been all right. And one other item, and this I do see would ask the city to consider, is there some way for us to encourage or find out if we can access vaccines for our seniors in this city if they want to take? That seems to be the bigger problem, trying to figure out how to access the vaccines. So that's all. Thank you.
Derek, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think we probably ought to maybe reiterate the
subject,
the agenda item. But to that extent, Mr. Jackson, do you have a comment on accessing the vaccine? I think that's really kind of decided by the state, and especially in smaller cities, it's decided by the county, but we are certainly happy to get out information anytime we get it, as you know, from talking to Ms. Martin.
I tell you what, Mayor, if you'll remind me, I'll have a comment at the end of the meeting in the announcements. And I'll do it there.
Okay. Any other questions or comments as it relates to item 5D? Mr. Jackson, I have a few. Okay. I would really like for you to, and you said you would, but I just want to reiterate for our for the community that's watching and that's concerned, to research any opportunities that we might have for our citizens to physically engage city services at City Hall without engaging the employees. In other words, if there are other drop boxes, if there are other ways that they might be able to approach our city physically and do their business without jeopardizing their health and safety and the health and safety of our employees, that would be something that I would certainly be interested in. I also want to encourage you to continue, especially on days that are advantageous for us to do so, to continue to have city staff out in the parking lot, engaging customers, assisting them in paying their utility bills, obviously those that aren't paying in cash, electronically. I think that is a benefit for our citizens. I think that it is as safe as we possibly could have it with our employees. And so it's a win-win. We're in the open air, and we're helping to resolve issues with our citizens. And so I want to continue that if we could. Let me say this. Your proposal tonight suggests that you would like to continue this through March. And so we're considering that you would be directed to continue this through March. But one of the things that we two things that we have not addressed, and I'd like for you to address this at this time, is number one, is this recommendation, is this criteria inclusive of council meetings? And so the people want to know when we will start to meet physically as a council. So is this criteria inclusive of council meetings, number one? And number two, would you read for the community what this criteria is and how you arrived at the criteria that you're reading?
Okay, so number one, yes, it would be inclusive of council, commission, and board meetings, because we have as much interaction there as we do probably inside the general office, and that's part of our operations now, is that there are no face-to-face meetings in the council chambers either. So yes, it would be inclusive of that. It is through March anticipated that that may not have been worded absolutely perfect, because it would actually be through the April meeting, because then you guys would have to look at it again in April. So this will continue through the April meeting, and we would bring a proposal back to you in April to talk about the April meeting at that time. The criteria, let me find the page that has it, says that, so I'll just read that paragraph. It says the most significant direct data available to the city of Lamarque to use to determine the status of virus spread is the testing positivity rate provided by the Galveston County Health District. The following criteria is recommended to be used to trigger reevaluation of reopening under this plan. 1, the weekly positivity rate must be less than 5% for the previous week. And 2, the weekly positivity rate must be decreasing for 3 consecutive weeks prior. We have monitored since day one. We have monitored our community outlook based on that weekly positivity rate. And the reason we use the weekly rate instead of the daily rate is because some of the testing groups it's a rapid. If you get a rapid test, you get the results immediately. If you get some of the places in town, it's a 24-hour response. There are still some that are 2 or 3 day response when you get them. So a large spike may not be seen in a single day, or a large spike may be seen in a single day. But over the week, that may not absolutely be the trend for that week. So we've used the weekly positivity rate to kind of track where we're going. And you can see the cycle in this. When you look at the weekly positivity rates, it's pretty easy to see the cycle. It's easy to see when we're ramping up to a peak. And it's easy to see when you're headed back down off of a peak and when things are getting back to normal. If people are right, and the vaccine is going to start slowing the spread, I think we'll see that begin to fall off as quickly as we get the vaccine available here and people decide to take it. We'll see it fall off, and that weekly rate should drop significantly. Realizing that last week our positivity rate was 19.8%. The week before it was 20.2%. And those are 2 of the highest rates we've had since it started. So we had a peak. Historically, when you look back over this 7 to 10 days after a holiday, you have another spike. We saw a spike after Thanksgiving. It never really leveled off. And then we saw another spike at Christmas, and we're still seeing additional numbers from New Year's right now. So it's just continued to go up. But I think we'll get to a point here where we'll see it start to come down, and that positivity rate, less than 5%, that means that 5 out of every 100 people that test are testing positive. Right now, 20 out of every people that test are testing positive. So when we get it down to that 5 number, that's a number that I think we feel we can safely interact with precautions still, but that we could safely interact with the public and keep everybody safe, keep our employees safe, and keep the staff, keep the citizens safe as well. Dara?
Mayor, as a caveat to that, right now the council is able to meet via Zoom because of a suspension of the Open Meetings Act law. The governor extends that, and really the attorney general, they extend that in 30-day increments. I will say they tend to be, pro opening things up as soon as possible. So it is a pretty good sign as well that as long as the Open Meetings Act continues to be suspended, the state is basically encouraging these type of Zoom meetings. And I will say, as you know, before working for Lamarck, I did work for a private firm that handled a whole lot of cities. And I saw cities at that time doing all different kinds of meetings. This is definitely my favorite kind of meeting. We can actually see and hear citizens. We can see and hear each other. And I, for one, thought it was very ineffective for everyone involved to try to yell past a mask for hours at a time. So, that's just kind of a personal note from experience on that particular issue. But also, if at any point, regardless of what our policy says, that Opens Meetings Act suspension is discontinued, we would automatically have to go back by law to the in-person meeting. So that might even happen kind of before we're ready as a city, and we'd have to go ahead and just take the best precautions we can.
Okay. Mr. Jackson, I think that in two or three of these discussions tonight, I think that it's clear that we, and I say we as a city, as city leadership, we have to do a better job in our transparency, in our clarity, and in our consistency in communication. There's been a lot going on. You have been pulled all sorts of different directions. Certainly, there's been all sorts of things happening in our city as it relates to COVID, the economy, but more specifically as it relates to our law enforcement community and those crimes that have been committed in our city. So there's a lot going on. I think that we would do well, and we would go a long way with our community to develop a transparent, clear, and consistent way of communicating these things to the public. And along those lines, Mr. Jackson, the criteria that you are recommending to us tonight, is there any way that we could have that criteria placed on channel 16, communicated to our residents through the CTY program, placed on our website as well, along with a scorecard, a weekly scorecard that they can compare to? And so what I'm asking is that if we were to have that criteria, for example, on channel 16 and on the website, but then weekly, if we would be able to put the apples with the apples, if you will, this is the criteria for reopening, and this is what our scorecard looks like for this week, so that our community could clearly see what it will take to reopen and clearly see where we are in our reporting of those particular pieces of information. I think it will be easy for us to understand, and people will know what to expect from week to week, month to month.
Most of our challenges
that are being expressed tonight from our community are really concerns that can be cleared up tremendously with a more transparent, clear, and consistent way of communicating. So is it possible that we could put the criteria up for them to see and the scorecard next to it for them to be able to see?
You bet.
Good deal. Good deal. Good progress.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this item? Mr. Jackson.
Item number 5E is discussion relating to approving the creation of a city manager diversity advisory council. I have given to you in your packet a memo about a concept of developing a city manager office diversity advisory council. the idea of this council would be to have a group that would represent the historically underserved and underrepresented groups within our city, to be able to come in and sit down, or via Zoom until we can sit down again once a month, to discuss issues in our city. Not only issues that the council would bring to that diversity council would bring to the discussion, but to also use them as a sounding board for things that the council's talking about, and our proposals for implementing those policies and how it's going to affect different groups within our town, within our city, and give them a chance just to have a voice here in City Hall. One of the seats on that board, I have already spoke to one gentleman here in our town who is going to assist me with the development of a youth advisory council with the younger generation here. One of the seats on that council would be reserved for the member that council selects to sit and serve on that board. Looking at a board of somewhere between 7 and 15 individuals. I don't want to get it too big because then we can't, everybody wouldn't have as much time to provide input. Probably starting out with 7 individuals to begin with, and then going from there. I've already asked our former councilman, Chris Lane, if he would be willing to chair that council for me, and he's agreed that he would be willing to chair that council and to help steer that council into being a sounding board. I get to be their sounding board and they get to be mine. So we make sure that what we're doing and what we're saying and how we're doing it is received and well received and understood both ways. And to create another channel of communication with parts of our community that we maybe historically have not communicated with very well.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Jackson as relates to item 5E? Any questions or comments for Mr. Jackson as relates to item 5E?
Casey's about to.
I'm sorry. I know, sorry. I want to say that this, I'm very glad. Thank you, Tink, for seeing the need, and not only the need, but the absolute requirement that we as a city turn to the people that live here and people who have experience that speaks directly to the kinds of issues that we are dealing with as a city right now. The death of Joshua Feast, these so many intolerable incidents of violence, and many other things. We need guidance from our citizenry, and I'm really, I'm just highly in support of this committee, and I want to assure anyone watching and anyone who may watch in the future and anyone out in our ether that this is not just another box that we check to join myriad organizations in this year that decided, oh no, we better have diversity and inclusion training, or oh no, we better form a committee so it looks like we're doing something. That is not what this is. And I promise that myself as a councilwoman, and I know the rest of our council, will hold our city manager accountable to that, for that fact, and ourselves accountable to that, that the solicitation of wisdom and opinion from our citizenry is absolutely indivisible from informing us how we make wise steps forward and unify our community and eliminate violence and make Marque as inclusive as possible and make it the best damn place to live in Texas and the United States. And I think this is just one small but very integral step to that. So I'm happy about it. Okay. Please, someone else make a comment or a question.
I like it. I mean, I applaud this effort, Tink. So I made my comment, Casey.
Thank you so much. Whew.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we are at the end of our workshop tonight. And so we'll move into our time of our regularly scheduled meeting. Regular scheduled meeting for January the 11th, 2021, the Marque City Council. We're going to call the meeting to order. I believe it is 8:06. Robin, do we need to do an additional roll call at this time?
I don't think so. Well, I don't see Mitch Titch. Let me see.
He's there.
He's there.
Yeah, right.
He's still there.
Right there. Yeah.
Everybody's still on.
Okay, so let's move through this as expeditiously as possible. All members are present. And again, we thank those that have participated with us thus far, and we welcome those who continue on in this presentation. Item 3, presentation. Item A is a recognition of Mayor Bobby Hocking. Mayor Hocking is not able to be with us tonight. Certainly, we thank God for his tenure and his time. We thank God for his service, and we will get with him at a later date, a date that he is available to publicly and officially recognize him for his service.
Mayor Bell, Mayor Bell,
Yes.
if you would, I just got a text message from him a few minutes ago that he asked me to read when it came to this part. It says, while I'm not participating in tonight's meeting, please allow me to express my thanks and gratitude for the recognition of my service to the city. I consider it one of the most challenging yet rewarding chapters in my book of life. It's been an honor serving with my esteemed colleagues, both past and present. I wish the absolute best for the mayor, council, administration, staff, and the citizens of La Marque as La Marque moves forward into another season. Success be yours.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Mayor Bobby Hocking. If you are somewhere listening, certainly we owe you a debt of gratitude for your 10 years of service and sacrifice. You have moved La Marque forward tremendously, and we are better for your service to our community. We wish you well. We wish you happiness. We wish you joy. We wish you and your lovely wife, Patty, a million more years together, because we know that that is your primary passion. That's to be with your lovely wife, and we know that her passion is for you. So we thank God for your ability to share one another in the coming weeks, months, and years of your time here. God bless you, and we look forward to all of the joy that you will share with us in your retirement. Item 3B, recognition of Council Member Chris Lane. Is Chris Lane available?
Yes, sir.
Christopher Lane. You wore a suit tonight, I see.
Appreciate it.
Christopher Lane, from the city of La Marque, the gateway to the Gulf. A very special thank you for your outstanding service and leadership to the city of La Marque. Chris Lane, Council Member District B, 2014 to 2020. Thank you, Mr. Lane, for your service to our city. You have helped us tremendously with your youth initiative. You've helped us tremendously with your innovation and your insight, and with your ability to see through much of those things that appear to be mundane and bring about ideas that bring those things to life. Again, I met you as a colleague, but I now consider you tonight as one of my closest friends. I really appreciate you for everything that you've done. We wish you well in your new role with our city as the chairman of Mr. Jackson's Diversity Advisory Council. Thank you, Mr. Lane. Is Judge Stephen W. Baker present?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
And you wore all red tonight, didn't you?
Yes, sir. That's my better side.
That's your better side.
Yeah, you
I
got
can't
it.
see your eyes or your nose. Anyway. Okay. Judge Baker, who I served with for the better part of 20 years. We want to thank you for your many years of dedicated service to the city of Lamarck. Stephen W. Baker, your great work is appreciated and will never be forgotten. We thank you, Judge Baker, for your sacrifice and service, those early morning hours that you visited our jail, those times where you have counseled and directed our young people, and those times where you have provided a roadmap to success for the members of our community that have had to stand before you in your court. You have been a judge who has been thorough, a judge who has been effective in our community, and you will be sorely missed. But we definitely understand that you look forward to a happy, healthy, and wholesome retirement. And we want you to know that we owe you a debt of gratitude for all of the time and service and sacrifices you have made for our citizens in our community. Thank you, Judge Stephen W. Baker.
Thank you, Mayor. I greatly appreciate it. It's been an honor to serve the city.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Item 4, approval of minutes. We'll take these three collectively. Item 4A, workshop meeting minutes for December 14th, 2020. Item B, regular meeting minutes of December 14th, 2020. Item C, special meeting minutes of December 16th, 2020. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? There's a motion, there's a second. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at item 5, which requires the administering of the oath of office to our two assistant city managers, Charlene Warren and David Jordan. But I believe that is placing the cart before the horse. We have not officially acted as a council as it relates to these two positions. So, council, what is your pleasure? Would you like to move this item to the bottom of our agenda after we have acted on Mr. Jackson's proposal, or would you like to move that item up so that we might consider that before the oath of office? What is your pleasure?
I support the idea of moving this item lower if our legal counsel deems that wise. Okay, that's what I said.
You can take it in any order that council desires.
Let's make sure that we are respectful of the citizens' concern, and so we don't want to put the cart before the horse when our citizens are looking at this item with interest. So let's move to item 6, public hearing. 6A, conduct a public hearing to hear public input regarding adopting ordinance number 0-2020-0021, changing the zoning district for property at or near 714 Bayou Road from C2 restricted commercial to C1 general commercial. This is a public hearing. And so we'll move into our time of public hearing at what time, Robin?
8:15.
8:15. We have left the regular schedule meeting. We're now in our public hearing at 8:15. Is there anyone that would like to make commentary or have questions about item 6A? Going once, going twice. We'll close the public hearing. What time, Robin?
8:16.
8:16. We'll move on to item 7A. Item 7A is old business. A discussion, possible action regarding adopting ordinance number 0-20-0021, changing the zoning district for property at or near 714 Bayou Road from C2 restricted commercial to C1 general commercial. This is the second and final reading. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Just for clarity's sake, this was the property that I heard on your previous meeting that there was a request to start some sort of hot rod mechanic shop at. Was that accurate?
Yes, sir, Councilman. Thank you for that. That is the exact property that we're speaking of.
Well, I noticed as well too about the enforcement. I think that was included in the final ordinance. I just hope that that it's conveyed to the property owner that there will be strict enforcement of our noise ordinance. The citizens have said we've got a problem with noise, and this is I kind of looked at Google Maps. It's kind of across from almost near the police station and Benito's Mexican restaurant there. So I say I just hope that there's strict enforcement. That's all I have to say on that.
Point taken, Councilman. Point taken. We had last meeting we had a healthy discussion about that, and Dira assured us that all noise ordinances will be followed, and that code enforcement will be in close contact and communication with this business to make sure that they are in understanding of that and in agreement with that. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sure, it passes unanimously. Item 7B, discussion possible action regarding adoption of resolution R-2020-0023 TCAP professional service agreement and Gexa's Energy Commercial Electric Service Agreement for power to be provided on and after January 1st, 2023. This item was tabled at a December 14th, 2020 meeting. Do we have a motion for approval?
I move that we approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sure, it passes unanimously. New business. Item 8A, discussion possible action regarding the appointment of a mayor pro tem for the unexpired term until the next general election. This is a council action, and because it's a council action, it is based on council discretion and direction. I will entertain a motion for the appointment of a mayor pro tem.
I motion to appoint Joe Compion as the new mayor pro tem for this term. He's had a long-time residence. He has the citizens at heart and a lot of experience in the judicial. I think he'd do a good service for this city.
Well, thank you, Robert.
Thank you for that motion, council member. Is there a second to Mr. Compion's nomination, or is there an additional nomination?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Joe. The motion has been made by Councilman Mistich and seconded by Councilman Compion. Are there any additional nominations?
Well, I find myself in a very bizarre position that I didn't expect. As well, I'm gonna be as frank as possible here. Joe, I'm very happy to have you here on council, but I will say I did not expect that we would nominate one of the newest members to council.
I need to be able to hear it.
Oh, can y'all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
And so first I need, Dara, I would really like your advice here on whether, am I allowed to nominate myself?
Technically, yes. I was actually just going to look into it. Mayor, is there a reason that this has to be decided tonight? And the only reason I bring that up is you're already at a much smaller council than normal.
I believe there that it was placed on the agenda by Mr. Jackson because it's procedural, and there is a succession plan that takes place with the mayor pro tem. But I don't necessarily know that it has to be done tonight. We can we believe that we're going to have a special meeting on next week to consider some things with the Safe City initiative. And so I don't have a problem with it being pushed back if the other members of council don't have a problem with it being pushed back. The mayor pro tem position is a position that is promoted by council members because they are trying to put forward their leader, the leader of the council. And so if there is a discussion that needs to take place, I believe that it's appropriate for us to push it back a week.
At least from the legal side, that would be very appreciated. I think you've got a couple of unusual situations here that it would be nice to be able to provide a little better, more in-depth legal advice to council on.
Okay.
What are those issues legal? I'm curious.
Well, with all due respect, I'd actually prefer to provide your legal advice in executive session instead of open session until I have clear research on some of those, and then I'd be happy to discuss them further. Just in short, as Councilwoman McAuliffe brings up, right, she's considering nominating herself. Also, I have some concerns about you being the second on your own potential nomination and vote for Mayor Pro Tem. So I think right now we're in a position where you don't have to take that action immediately. And it might be beneficial to council if I can put together all of the details and relevant charter provisions for you to make your decision as an informed one.
Mayor, would it be prudent maybe to push out this until the May election when you have a full council and let them select? Because, I know it's for an unexpired term and you're going to have to do it again after that election, but, maybe that's the best route.
First off, my phone is dying, so switch. Okay. You should check that out. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I am not Chris Lane at all, but my phone died. And so Chris is letting me use his phone. I think the issue is the succession plan that has to be put in place. And the mayor pro tem plays a vital role in that. If something were to happen to myself for any reason, I believe that we need a mayor pro tem to step forward and lead our city in the same way that Mr. Jackson is suggesting about the city manager's office. So I think it's important that we move forward in naming a mayor pro tem. But I do believe that we can wait a week because this is important. Councilwoman McAuliffe has questions, and I totally respect that. And we want to make sure that those questions are answered. We want to make sure that we're doing things responsibly and legally. But I do believe, Councilman Mistich, that we have to act on this. Not tonight, definitely within the next 7 to 10 days, so that we can establish continuity in our leadership on council.
Longest current continuing membership.
Well, and Mayor, you do actually have an executive session on already, where we're going to discuss a different item. So to the extent that we're considering legal advice under section 551-071 of the Open Meetings Act, I can certainly speak to council about this matter to the extent I need to give you legal advice. And you could just take action on this after that executive session if you would prefer, and that's council's will.
Okay, let's do this. Let's discuss it in the executive session, and then the council can make their determination on how they want to proceed on this matter. How about that? Is that agreeable to every member of council? Ms. McAuliffe, is that agreeable?
Yes.
Mr. Mishich?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Compion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on to item 8B. Discussion, possible action regarding resolution number R-2021-0001, calling for the general election to be held May 1st, 2021, to elect one mayor, one council member for District A, and one council member for District C for a 3-year term. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to direct the city manager that we need a second polling place when this comes up for review.
Yes, sir. Mr. Jackson, did you receive that?
I got that. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Show it passes unanimously. Item 8C, discussion possible action regarding entering into a contract with the Galveston County Clerk and Galveston County Election Officer for the general election to be held May 1st, 2021, and possible runoff election on June 15th, 2021. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second. Mhm.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Show it passes unanimously. Item 8D, discussion possible action regarding the adoption of ordinance number 0-2021-0001, amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget by increasing various accounts expenditures and decreasing various fund balances as set forth in Exhibit A. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Jackson, this is the item that speaks to the recommendation that we approve the creation of 2 assistant city managers positions within our city. It has been concerning to many of our community members. Many believe that we don't necessarily need 2 assistant city managers, and you had the opportunity to address their concerns. I believe that if we are going to move in this direction, that a big part of the job function of one of these assistant city managers has to be that they are an effective community liaison, that they are an effective customer service person for our community, that they have a significant role in creating and executing with this council youth initiatives, and that they play a primary role in the development and the implementation of our Safe City initiative. For me, that would be what I would need to move forward in support with two assistant city managers. And so in a nutshell, for me, it has to be that this second city manager, because I think that we all can understand that this first assistant city manager is important because of the succession plan, because we're having some issues with our public safety sector. I believe that that's appropriate. The second assistant city manager has to speak to this piece of community engagement and community service and liaison to the community, has to speak to these issues of youth involvement and the youth initiative, and has to speak to the Safe City initiative. That would be the, I don't want to say the only way, but that would be the way that I would be able to move forward with support of these two assistant city managers. And also, I would like for us to review this in our budget workshops. That would give us about 5 to 6 months of working with both of these persons in the capacity in which they would be in, and it would help us to assess their effectiveness. I believe in giving city managers the leeway to lead their staff. And so I want to give you that leeway, but I also want to make sure that the community and their concerns are addressed, and that there's a way for them to assess this in the next 5 or 6 months to see if they are still in support of this recommendation. Mr. Jackson, are you willing to incorporate these requests in this recommendation?
A couple of points there, Mayor, real quick. I think when you look at the job descriptions that are written for the positions, that's very clear in those job descriptions that all the aspects that you're talking about are a fundamental part of each one of those positions. The customer service, the interaction with the community, I think all that stuff, it's inherently built into the position, and the job description reflects that. Also want to make something else, pretty clear here too. We're not adding 2 positions, we're adding 1. One of those positions is strictly a title change. And it's a title change based on the work that position was doing before I even got here. The work that a lot of the work that the one position was doing was equivalent to work that would have been done by an assistant city manager in the first place. So it's a title change for one. It's an addition of another, and that and in the process we also lost the position out of the city manager's office. So it's not like the office is just being multiplied and grown and expanded. It was 3 people when I got here. It's going to be 3 people here now, with some different one with a different title and another one with some additional responsibilities. But I think all the things that you're asking about, and you're talking about, I think it's going to be it'll be evident quickly how involved they are in those things, and how the progress that we'll make in those areas by having both of those people in those positions.
Okay. Okay, I understand that, and thank you for the clarification for the community members so that they can understand better. And again, as we act tonight, we're acting with the understanding that this position will benefit us by keeping us safer, and will benefit us by helping us to engage our community in a deeper and more meaningful way. Are there any other items relating to this agenda item that we need to discuss? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sure, it passes unanimously. Item 8E, discussion possible action regarding the city manager's update on city operations during COVID-19. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Again, Mr. Jackson, we agreed in a workshop that we're going to publish this criteria on every platform the city has at its disposal. We also agreed that we're going to publish a weekly scorecard in addition to this criteria so that our community members can clearly see where we are as it relates to the reopening of our city and the reestablishment of in-person meetings on our boards, commissions, and of course, with this council. Any other discussion?
And Mayor, to remind them, as Ms. Purnell mentioned, that our council meetings are via Zoom by way of a governor's order that may change month to month. And when that happens, as you said, we'd be required to go back to our old meeting formats, correct?
Absolutely, Councilman. And that's let's make that extremely clear. If in fact there comes a time where the governor lifts the restrictions that he's placed on this state, and we are required by law, according to DERA, to return back to in-person meetings and to abide strictly by the letter of the law, the Texas Open Meetings Act, we will do so immediately. We have no choice because it is the law. Until such time, we will allow this, if it is passed, we will allow this criteria to govern us and to govern our accessibility. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sure, it passes unanimously. I am going to take item F, and then I will go back and swear in our two new assistant city managers. Item 8F, discussion possible action regarding the approval to create the city manager diversity advisory council. I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sure, it passes unanimously. Now, we were a little discombobulated because the phone died, but now we're back. And I believe that we've done the people's business. We have not put the cart before the horse. Mr. Jackson has given us his recommendations. We have communicated with him the people's concerns, and this council has acted to approve the two positions of assistant city manager. And so now we are going to administer the oath of office. First, to Mrs. Charlene Warren. And Ms. Warren, are you ready?
Stand up. I get closer so they can hear you, or?
Well, there's no volume minutes here.
Oh, I'm gonna let her use mine so you can hear.
Okay, okay. You ready, Ms. Warren?
Yes, sir.
You raise your right hand. This is the State of Texas oath of office. Repeat after me. I, Charlene Warren,
Charlene Warren,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Assistant City Manager
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Assistant City Manager
of the City of Lamarck,
of the City of Lamarck,
the State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and I will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States. So help me God.
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. So help me God.
Congratulations, Ms. Warren, on
Thank you.
your new appointment
Thank you so much.
as Assistant City Manager in our great city.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlene.
Mr. Jordan, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Raise your right hand, please. The State of Texas oath of office. I, David Jordan,
I, David Jordan,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the Assistant City Manager
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Assistant City Manager
of the City of Lamarck,
of the City of Lamarck,
State of Texas,
State of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States. So help
and
me
will,
God.
and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the laws of the United States. So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. David Jordan, on your appointment as our newest Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Jordan.
Welcome, Mr.
Congratulations.
Jordan. Welcome to your new responsibility, Ms. Warren.
Thank you.
We look forward to you serving our community to the best of your ability and faithfully executing the offices in which you have been appointed to. And now we're at item 9. We're at our executive session. And I believe we have an executive session tonight, so I'll go ahead and read for us the laws that govern our executive session. The City Council for the City of Lamarck, Texas reserves the right to adjourn into executive session at any time during the course of this meeting to discuss any of the matters listed above as authorized by the Texas Government Code Section 551-071, consultation with attorney, 551.072, deliberations about real property, 551.073, deliberations about gifts and donations, 551.074, personnel matters, 551.076, deliberations about security devices, and 551.086, economic development. Mr. Jackson.
Dara, you can just adjourn and go into executive session for now, and we'll have Kyle get us all in there.
Okay, I just created the room, Mr. Compion. I know this is your first time, but you'll see a button that pops up that says go to the room or go to room. It should now be open.
Okay.
Robin, do you have the time?
It's 8:44.
We are breaking out into executive session at 8:44. Are we all back?
Three. No,
Yes.
we're missing. Oh, we're all back now.
Okay, we are back from executive session. Time, Robin.
It's 9:10.
9:10. Okay, very good. I'll entertain a motion to accept the settlement offer made from Comcast.
Motion to accept the settlement, Mayor.
The second?
And Mayor, just for the record, that motion includes adopting the resolution. Is that correct?
Mr. Mishich, does that motion include adopting the resolution?
Yes, to adopt that
Thank you.
resolution.
Is there a second?
Mr. Compion, you're muted.
Second, I'm sorry.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We are going to pick back up our appointment of Mayor Pro Tem for the city of Lamarque. We have two nominations on the floor. The first nomination is Mr. Joe Compion, and the second nomination is Mrs. Casey McAuliffe. We'll take these one at a time with the understanding of 3 votes for one candidate declares that candidate as the Mayor Pro Tem. And so let's take the first nomination.
Mayor Bell, I'm sorry. I would like to withdraw my nomination and actually nominate Mr. Michitich.
Okay. Councilwoman McAuliffe withdraws her nomination of herself as for the Mayor Pro Tem and nominates Mr. Robert Michitich. And so we'll take, we found out that the nomination for Mayor Pro Tem does not need a second. And so we have 2 nominations on the floor. The first nomination is for Mr. Joe Compion to be Mayor Pro Tem. And the second nomination made by Councilwoman McAuliffe is for Mr. Robert Michitich to be Mayor Pro Tem. And so let's take Mr. Compion first. All those in favor of Mr. Compion being the next Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Lamarque signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's an aye for me. Those are 3 votes. And so because those 3 votes have been cast for Mr. Compion has now been appointed by his council as the new Mayor Pro Tem of the city of Lamarque. Congratulations, Mr. Compion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Joe.
No, thank you all.
And let me say this, welcome aboard, Mr. Compion. Certainly we've had a healthy discussion, but we realize that this position requires tremendous responsibility. It requires you to have the willingness to work with the rest of and lead the rest of this council. And so we expect you to be effective in this position. We look forward to working with you. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, being the former Mayor Pro Tem, let me know. We definitely will do all we can to help you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
We've come now to our item 11, requests and announcements from council. And so we will take this in order of district. And so we'll start with District B, Mr. Compion.
Well, first, I want to express to all the citizens and residents of Lamarque that came out to the town hall, those who viewed it on social media, because I got a lot of comments afterwards. One comment made was that it was refreshing to see all of our elected officials out there. And then all of our appointed officials out there as well too. I think this is what I keep hearing from citizens is it's a new, I keep hearing that I'm the newer one. I hope that it continues a newer vision and direction for the city with under your leadership as well, Keith, as the mayor of our city. So thank you for that effort and to Tink. I also want to express my thanks to the many generous citizens of Texas City and Lamarck and other communities. I've been involved in assisting the families that were impacted by the tornado in Texas City. And I want to give my thanks to all of them that have stepped forth to assist in that effort.
Thank you, Mr. Campion. Mr. Mishich.
Yes, again, the same thanks to our community, and there's still a lot of healing to be done. When we do get the results of these investigations back, patience is what I ask for everybody. And I look forward to the results that the combined efforts across this county and others are doing to try to rid our community and the others of these people that are doing these bad acts. They need to go somewhere else. Again, Joe, I look forward to your leadership. I think you're going to be good. And I think it's going to be whoever comes in on these two council positions. I think you're going to have a good council. And Mayor, I think you're doing well. Your speech yesterday was bar none excellent, and really appreciate it. That's all. Thank you.
Councilwoman McAuliffe.
I want to take the opportunity to say, well, rather to address the truly harrowing events that happened in our nation's capital last week. I just want to say that they have both shook me and also I found them to be unsurprising. And I want to say that the only conclusion I want to draw from public events like that are the fact that I am more resolute than ever to hold myself accountable to the citizenry of Lamarck. And thank you. It's an honor to serve here. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman McAuliffe. I'd like to say that I want to thank those members of our community that have wished me well in this endeavor. I've heard from so many of our community members words of excitement and encouragement, words of wisdom. I'm humbled by those expressions. And we understand and know that we are in an adverse time in our city. There is a lot for us to work through. This is a new council. And every time we add a member or take a member away from the council becomes new, and there's a process of growing. The council has to grow together. And I believe that this council can and will grow together. And I know this council will work together. And I know that this council will be effective in our ultimate goal. And that goal is to make Lamarck the best city that Lamarck can be. And I want to thank this council for their continued efforts for re-engaging our community. Throughout these past few weeks, I have witnessed all of our council. I've witnessed Councilwoman McAuliffe be a part of the experiences and the events of the community on several occasions. I've witnessed Mr. Compion visit focus groups and rallies and events that are promoting the advancement and the unity of our community. I've witnessed Mr. Mishtich attend meetings and initiatives that are designed to help us understand the needs of our community. And so I want to personally thank each of you for your tireless efforts in and around our community, visiting with your constituents and the rest of those members of our community that have questions and concerns. I am thankful that you are my colleagues, and I look forward to working with you in the future. I'd like to congratulate and welcome aboard Mr. Jordan. I'd like to congratulate Ms. Warren on her new position. It's my hope and my prayer that they will be just as effective as Mr. Jackson believes that they can be. And so we look forward to the great things that they will be able to accomplish. But moving forward, we know that the road ahead for us is an arduous one. We know that the things that we will be tasked to accomplish won't be easy. We understand that it will take hard work and the hard work of community. I want to thank this council and the city manager and the police chief and the rest of our staff that came out on yesterday to unveil the first leg of our Safe City initiative to our community. Many members of our community have given us positive feedback for having the courage to step outside of the confines of City Hall, to step into the community with an open heart, an open mind, and an attentiveness to the concerns of our community that they have not seen in quite some time. Let me say that the Safe City initiative is in its infancy, and the parameters in which we laid out were designed to be filled in with community commentary and support. So we gave you the parameters of what our Safe City initiative will look like, with the idea and understanding that it will be our community members that will craft the plan in which we move forward. And so yesterday was the first leg or the first step of that endeavor. There will be many more steps. There will be many more meetings. There will be many more focus groups. There will be many more discussions. There will be much more planning. And we will arrive at a place that we can present a comprehensive Safe City initiative to our community for their review and their endorsement. So I want to be sure to say this and drill down on this with our community. Yesterday was not the end all be all of our initiative. In fact, it was simply an introduction to the idea that we need an initiative. The initiative will be filled in with the comments, the opinions, the thoughts, and the ideas of our citizens in conjunction with the expertise of our police department and the leadership and the direction of this council. And so we are nowhere near done. In fact, I believe we'll be calling a special meeting on next week so that this council can meet and decide the next steps for obtaining the information we need to put in our Safe City initiatives so that we can begin the process down the line of executing that initiative in a way that will be satisfactory and beneficial to all citizens of Lamarck, because we endeavor in Lamarck to be the safest city in Texas. And we can get there, and we will get there through hard work, through sweat equity, through a firm and consistent commitment to safety and to the security of the members of our community. We will get there. And so I just want to thank you for, as a community, your patience. And I want to thank you as a community for your support. Until we meet again, if there's nothing further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a second.
I think I saw Mr. Compion second, but he's muted.
Mr. Compion, are you seconding?
Yes, he did.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.